Hey, how's everybody doing? My name is Tyson Goff, and I'm president and founder of Paradigm Transformations Incorporated and VitalPerformanceGear.com. A little bit about my history, though, is I used to be about 350 pounds, and now I'm 165 pounds. I'm lean, healthy, and fit, and able to go about my life normally, but that definitely wasn't always the case. In fact, in my not so distant youth, I guess it was about 15 years ago or so now, but I was heavily addicted to drugs, and I ended up getting myself removed from society and put in the state penitentiary for 7 full years. 13 months of that I spent alone in a cell in solitary confinement, and these are just kind of unique situations that make for an interesting topic of conversation. However, even though that's all very true and kind of led me to this point, that's not really what the video is about. So if you want to know more about that journey or see any of the pictures of me in like a before state, different than what you see me now, to kind of prove what I'm saying, go ahead and click any one of the links or learn more at the bottom, and it'll just take you to our product description page, and I'll tell you more about that later. It's some pretty cool technology. But at the bottom of that page, there's a place where you can sign up with your email, and we don't share your information with anybody. It just gives me a place where I can send about a 20-page ebook that I wrote with some pictures and everything, and it kind of details that story, which is interesting to know, where I'm coming from and stuff. So, but the purpose of this video is about the weight loss portion of that journey, and I figured out some different little tricks or hacks, if you will, with your metabolism and exercise intensities and durations, and figured out how to burn fat, effectively, because not only did I gain that weight and then have to lose it, but I had chemically damaged my metabolism, I believe, and I gained like 100 pounds back 5 times or more. And during doing that, I had to figure out how to lose it most effectively, and I think I did. So that's what I'm trying to put into a system for you guys, so that anybody who might be struggling with challenges in changing their body or really getting some results from their exercise, hopefully this can help. So I'll jump right into it. Thanks. And so what I found myself with was morbid obesity that wouldn't go away. And I lost 200 pounds, and then I gained 100 pounds, or 70 to 100 pounds, 5 individual times at least. I gained it back and had to lose it again. I lost count at about 5 times. I can say 5 safely, but it was miserable and it was frustrating. Like, I tried everything, and I mean everything, to try and lose that weight. And then when it came back, it blew my mind. I was so upset because I felt like I had conquered the whole world, and then it just came piling back onto me, not once, not twice, 5 times or more. And I was around a lot of people that were watching me study and apply the science that I was reading, and I was learning and using all the terms, and I was really doing everything I could, and I just kept getting fat. And I was so ashamed at some points. It was crazy because I didn't understand why me. Why is this so hard for me? But in the meantime, when I was doing all this, I learned later that it was my habits, my lifestyle choices, the things that I reverted to that were familiar to me, my mind, in other words, that caused that weight to gain back so many times, right? But my metabolism was also damaged, and I definitely was not treating my body right. But in this whole process, which was a definite learning process, I figured out how to lose fat most effectively for myself. And I did so by studying really hard. Is basically how I do everything. I was trying to figure out a trick based on an idea. Now, please, I don't recommend steroids. They're not healthy for your body, and they can cause long-term damage that we just can't know everything that they could do to your body, because what you're doing is injecting, in effect, an artificial hormone. And so that was where I say all this, because that was where my mindset was. I was thinking about how to get results. And so I thought about like this. I thought, if a steroid user gets a very big result from injecting something that causes hormones or is hormones, and the body responds to that with outsized growth or response, then what I need to be focusing on is hormones, or my endocrine system, which is the system that creates and manages and modifies hormones in your body. So I went into reading a bunch of sports science and trying to figure out just how I could create metabolic change in my body in order to create an endocrine response and burn fat, because I knew that it was possible. So what I found was something called EPOC. And EPOC stands for excessive post-exercise oxygen consumption. That's a big, long word, but in the end, it's describing a state after a really hard workout. When you've done a really hard sprint, or you've done something that gets up to what's called your anaerobic threshold and above, you cause something in your body that what it essentially is you've burnt out all of the different energy systems on the way up to that, and then you've burnt yourself out of energy. So like at the end of the sprint, you have to stop. You can't just keep sprinting forever. Well, that's because your energy system's burnt out, and then when you stop, you're breathing, right? And that is excessive post-exercise oxygen consumption. And what it's doing is you've created an oxygen debt, is how they describe it. And the body is trying to replenish all those systems, and it takes oxygen to run all the cellular mechanics of your body. And you're trying to replenish all of those energy systems that you burnt out using that really hard run of energy. And that is excessive post-exercise oxygen consumption. And the idea here is that when you burn out those energy systems and then they replenish themselves, you're causing a specific action to be repeated over and over. And the body responds to this by adapting and getting better at that. This is called the human stress adaptation response. And it says in basic form, when you apply a stimulus, or like in training, you do something and your body has to respond to it, the body will get better at that. That's why you get better at things that you practice. And so in that same way, your body will respond specifically to your pushing it to that anaerobic threshold level. Now, I didn't know when I was losing all that weight that was called an anaerobic threshold level. I had found the descriptions of EPOC, and so I was just going as hard as possible. And that's not the right way to do it. I highly recommend you don't just go as hard as possible, because I am a living result of what happens. Right? I look fine, right? But for the last 2 years, I have been doing nothing but yoga and stretching and mobility training. I had to learn a lot about kinesiology, and I had to ask, a lot of expert opinions and get a lot of guidance, and I had to endure a lot of pain and not train the way I want to for the last 2 years straight. Just to write, I had 2 internally rotated shoulders and an internally rotated hip. I had a frozen left glute, and these are all really painful things to deal with, and they all take a long time to work out. So that is a result. It's called a maladaptation. So remember, the body adapts to what you do to it. But if you're doing something wrong to it, it creates a maladaptation. Your body, like a callus, will basically just stop you from hurting itself by getting really tough. And when that happens in your muscles and stuff, it can bind you up, and it decreases mobility. And over time, you get locked up. It's not fun, and it's not recommended. Later in the course of this story, I figured out that I couldn't go hard all the time, and so I was trying to get to feel my body. I was trying to figure out how to do this, and this is really hard to just intuit. And so there's 3 parts really. You have to know what you're trying to achieve in your training. You have to know how to do it, like what actually to do. What's the target? Am I getting a certain amount of reps, like in the case of weightlifting, right? Or am I trying to run a specific amount of time, like in the case of like a distance runner, fast as possible, like a sprinter? So those are targets in your training. And so I was trying to hit certain intensity levels, and I knew that was just a really hard intensity level. That was why I was trying to, that's why I was going so hard to try and get EPOC. That is the incorrect way to go about that, like I said, but it's an important factor, is to know what to do and to get to a specific target intensity. So how hard do you go to be effective for you? And then what do you do to get there? And then there's another part that I found to be very important, and it is recovery. And at the beginning of this, if it wasn't obvious here, I wasn't paying attention to my recovery. I was working out multiple times a day if I could. I was just going as hard as possible. And recovery, I just figured, like, what's a rest day? I said that joking. And now I've been having to stretch for 2 years because of that type of a mindset and that attitude. But I didn't know. I was just really trying to not be fat. So recovery is really important. And when you are driven, when you've decided to make a change in your body and you've just decided to do it, it's kind of hard to put the brakes on sometimes. And, you know, how do you just feel that out? Because if we've decided that our previous feelings of not wanting to do stuff have left us in a physical shape that we didn't like, well, then it makes sense to just do the complete opposite of that, which is go all the time, and right, and not be lazy. But there's a balance. There's a method to the madness here, and so recovery is very important, and it's very hard to just feel out because something can be stressing your body, and you could never know it. Now, when I came home, people that I had grown up with my whole life, and when I say that, I mean when I came home from prison, which I was there for 7 years, so it was quite an expansive piece of time that I was gone. And when I came back, I was 200 pounds lighter, and I had gone through all my ups and downs, and I had changed my metabolism, and I was, as I am now, fit, lean, healthy, and able to go forward as I wished. Everybody was asking me, well, how'd you do it? How'd you do it? Like, tell me how to do it. I want to change my body too. How did you do that? And of course, I told them that food was important. Food is important. It's primary. Diet is very important to eat healthy. There's a lot of different ways to do that, but fad diets and extremist approaches are probably not some of the best ways. But that's a personal choice, and structured diet is important. But they were asking me how had worked out too, and like I told you before, right? I was trying to give them something to do. Like I couldn't say, sprint 800 meters 3 times a week or something. I didn't know how, because what I was doing was trying to go hard enough to create that EPOC level. I had just really went hard, and I wasn't all the way sure if that was right or wrong quite yet. Because remember, this was years ago. So going forward from that, I started seeking the way to teach people that. I started looking at what I kept reading, I kept studying, and in this search, I got led down the path to heart rate zone training and some of the limitations that come with heart rate zone training. And one of the main limitations that comes with heart rate zone training is to give a system out, right? And to get a heart rate to guide people by, you have to somehow make your guidance apply to everybody. And so they give formulas, heart rate formulas. And a general one is to find your max heart rate. They say to take 220 and subtract your age, and that would be your maximum heart rate. And then every 10 percentage points below that is a zone. So 90% of your max heart rate by that calculation would be, your zone 5. 90 to 80% would be zone 4, and so on. And there's only 5 zones, so the 5th zone and down counts as 1. But the limitations there are that if you have 2 people that are 45 and one's 6'6", male, and 210 pounds, and the other one is female, 5'2", 120 pounds, that there is huge differences in how those people's hearts and cardio-respiratory systems are going to work. And so the formulas break down in that, because you can't prescribe a specific metabolic reaction in such a variable and dynamic system as a human being across a broad population. It's really hard to do. So I was seeking wearable technology that would help with this, right? Heart rate zone training is in line with things that monitor your heart rate. And I found an article that was talking about a really cool new company out of Germany that was doing the only thing that was really of value in this arena, and it was centered around something called ventilatory threshold 2, which is a place where the anaerobic threshold lives. And that was what you heard me mention. The anaerobic threshold is the place that causes EPOC. When you reach into that zone and stay there for a little bit doing your workouts, you've done the right things for your metabolism, and you can know that you've caused the changes you were looking for. So this is that thing I was looking for, the bit of guidance that says what to do, what target to hit. And this becomes the way now that I can tell other people how to get those kind of results that I did. Now, EPOC, we've been talking about it a little bit, but it's so powerful that there's a big fitness company that has a franchise fitness chain that based their whole model on getting people to achieve these metabolic responses that I'm talking about. They guide people to get to the orange heart rate zone, which is the 4th zone. It's where your anaerobic threshold lives. And they guide people to get them there for a certain amount of time, and then that gets them a result. Most people, are somewhere close in there, and so it's an effective model. This is in fact $1 billion company, and so we know that the science works. It works on me. It's proven too many studies to list, and there's companies out there using it. So the idea though is that they're just calculated on those generic zones that I was talking about, and the anaerobic threshold is a very specific level. So it's important to get accurate, precise, and safe, because we're playing with our body and our metabolism, which is a very dynamic and very complicated machine in essence. And we want to make sure that we're doing everything for as well as we can for us personally. Otherwise, we risk injury or we're not getting the results we want. This type of data is usually acquired by people who's professional athletes or people who are being coached. They get this same data, the anaerobic threshold, from going into a sports lab and taking a blood lactate test. When they're doing that, they can choose to wear a mask. Maybe you've seen the professional athletes like really going on a treadmill or a cycle, and they have like tubes and a mask. Well, that's a part of it too. It's an additional expense, and it's a VO2 max test. So blood lactate test is where they go in and they get tested by a professional that takes their blood 4 or more times during that exercise bout of exercise, and then they test their levels of lactate and watch them rise as the exerciser's intensity is increased, and so they can tell what's happening from those blood tests inside that person's metabolism at different heart rate intensity levels. And that's how they score the intensities by their heart rate, so that they have a guide to use. And then if you pay the extra money to wear the VO2 mask test and you do that, you can also get your VO2 max, which just tells you some information about your maximum capabilities of exertion. These tests, a blood lactate and a VO2 max test, they cost $400 to $700 per trip to the lab. And then you need to repeat them multiple times through a season or a training block, because our body, like I was talking about, the stress adaptation response, when you give your body a stimulus, it does adapt to it. It gets better at it. And so if you just keep giving it the same stimulus, it's already gotten good at that. And this is what is expressed as a plateau. And so it's necessary to go in and retest your levels and see what your new heart rate zone boundaries are, specifically for your new metabolism that you've caused to create an adaptation, right? And then your new metabolic information. Maybe your aerobic zone is bigger, and you thought that you were working out in your aerobic zone, but you haven't been because it's changed quite significantly. Or maybe your individual anaerobic threshold has gone up enough that you're not getting close enough to it. You're not getting to that 95% or whatever the guided effort is. And if you're not doing those things because it's changed, that means that you're not going to get the same result, and that's a plateau. So you got the people test multiple times through a season at the tune of $400 to $700 per trip, and they do that in order to train more effectively. That's how they get specific results from the training and from their metabolism. The new way to get the blood lactate testing results and your VO2 max and some other cool features is ambiotex. Ambiotex has been working so hard on bringing this cool technology to existence, and so I'm really excited to introduce it to you. I'm wearing an ambiotex vital shirt and tech unit right now, which is called a starter kit. So the starter kit is just one shirt and one tech unit. You can see it behind me on the mannequin here, and also on the other side of me there, that's a stack of tech units. And here's a different style. We have white, sleeveless, black, with sleeves or not. And so you can see here that it's made out of a stretchy and robust material. It's thin, it's breathable, and it's sweat absorbent. It's really comfortable. It's really durable too. And then on the front, you can see here that on this shirt, it just has some magnetic button clips, and that's how the tech unit. That's how the tech unit clips on there. It's got 4 magnetic clips and a USB charging port. That just goes right on. It's good. And then you can see on the inside of this shirt here, so I have to strip my shirt off to show you this one, but got some sensors that ride around. So that is a clinical grade ECG. An electrocardiogram is what this shirt is. And it connects to the free app. So you get a free app with the You can download the free app, and it's monitoring right now. The one that's on my chest is monitoring my stress level, calories burnt since I've had it on and tracking, and my current heart rate. I can open it up here and see some calculations on heart rate variability. They're live, and this is clinical grade data. So an important point is that ambiotex spent 7 years or more developing this technology, working out the bugs, and working with the Fraunhofer Institute of Germany to get signal quality that is this high. So the standard for many wearable devices and things on the market is up to 30% error rate, and ambiotex is at 99.9 sometimes percent. So no lower than 99% accuracy, even during athletic motion for different metrics, not just heart rate either. The Fraunhofer Institute has run a clinical study on ambiotex technology and determined that you can determine your individual anaerobic threshold within 3 beats per minute, statistically equivalent is what that means, to a blood lactate test. So 3 beats per minute variance is not enough to matter in this case, and it has been repeated both clinically and non-clinically in order to maintain the surety of these results. So they test this over and over and over, and it's ongoing, and it always comes out just the exact same as a blood lactate test. So it replaces the need to go to a sports lab to have blood drawn, and you don't have to pay extra for a VO2 max test, and you can repeat this as many times as you want. Plus, you get the value of this being a wearable technology that tracks things like altitude, slope, speed, heart rate variability, which we'll talk more about in a minute. It tracks it live, and there's a proprietary test for it. But ambiotex combines all of this in a really cool package so that you don't have to pay for a subscription, and you don't have to pay for multiple trips to have your blood taken. You don't have to go through all of this inconvenience and expense. The ambiotex starter kit, which is a tech unit and a shirt, like we said, is only $300 and $300 with free shipping. So I mean, that's to your door. The blood lactate test and everything, $400 to $700 per trip, and then you have to repeat that. So for less than the cost of one trip to get this data in an official capacity, you can basically buy that lab to wear around on you in a shirt. So proprietary feature number 1 for ambiotex technology is that you can run a performance test on your own. So that whole scenario that I described at the sports lab, where you're running and you were getting your blood taken, you had a mask on, and you don't need to do all that anymore. But you can run a performance test from ambiotex, and you can do that on your own on a treadmill, on a cycle. And you get on there, and it guides you through, giving you audio cues about when and how hard to go. It tells you speed, and it has you do it for a certain amount of time. And you go until you can't go anymore. And you're supposed to go as hard as possible. And it's measuring your breath, your heart rate, and your heart rate variability to determine the stress on you while you're doing this, and then while you go through a cool down period. And at the end of that, it shows you your specific, right then, for your metabolism, your fitness level, your genetics, on Wednesday or whenever you did it, right then it gives you a snapshot of your fitness levels for you. Your individual anaerobic threshold within 3 beats per minute, same as getting your blood drawn, and then your heart rate zones and their personal boundaries. So each zone has a different size and a different boundary, and it is determined by the use of ambiotex during this test, so that you have all of that information going forward. Proprietary test number 2 is the stress test. So I've kind of said heart rate variability a couple times, and that's a really cool feature of ambiotex, is that it calculates your heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is the beat-to-beat intervals and how big they are, and what that means is if there is bigger differences in the beat-to-beat intervals, you are less stressed, and if there's less difference and it's more rhythmic, you are more stressed. And it's a lot more complicated than that, but really they're measuring the differences in beat to beat, and this is showing them how much stress is on your central nervous system. So your central nervous system is made of a parasympathetic and a sympathetic branch. Sympathetic is fight or flight, parasympathetic is rest and digest, and you can take a stress test with the ambiotex Vital Shirt, where you sit for 5 minutes and 35 seconds and you let it record everything that's going on, and this can tell with a clinical readout where your stress level is it gives you a visual picture of it. So it shows you whether or not you're in parasympathetic or sympathetic dominance, and it shows you how much your nervous system is activated, like how wired and awake you are. This can show you what kind of training is appropriate or inappropriate for you. And over time, if you see those values trending one way, you can see that you're reaching toward a place where you might be overtraining, and you can stop going so hard in order to let your body recover. Whereas you can't just feel these things out, because you just never know. I've been tricked even recently. I was trying to cop out on a workout, I guess. I felt like I wasn't recovered at all. I didn't want to go. And I was like, no. So I did a stress test, and I was at 100. I was completely fine. I went and I had a good workout. I just had to get warmed up and get my mind in it. But, even after 10, 11 something years I've been very active and very attentive to my fitness, I still can't just feel it out. I was wrong. The shirt told me I was right. And I went and I had a good workout. And, and that's the value of objective verification. Those proprietary features that I was talking about, the performance test, which gives you your individual anaerobic threshold, VO2 max, and heart rate zone boundaries, and then the stress test, which shows you how recovered you are specifically, whether or not you think you're recovered. It tells you how much stress lives inside your body, and it can show you whether or not you should do the type of training that you were thinking about doing that day. So those together become a system that allow me to tell you how I got the results that I got, right? And show you the way using this technology that can make it specific for you. So this is really exciting for me, because it's finally that answer that I've been trying to give to people, which is, how did you do it? And I just said, I just went hard, and that's not what people want to hear. That's not what I want to say. I want to be able to say, specifically, like, do this, and then so they can, because it's really cool to have achieved such a thing, and I want to share that. So now we know how hard we can go, and we know what's happening in different zones with our heart rate. And so I can guide an individual specifically on how to do things using sports science, because now we know that if you do this, and it's the same for you and your heart, like if your heart is in the aerobic zone and I'm trying to have you do aerobic work, now you're getting the same response you were supposed to from the sports science. So now structured sports science can be applied specifically to you as a unique individual. And then there's a couple more parts of training, though, that are important. There's a warm-up and a cool-down. Warm-up and cool-down are essential to training, and we want to give you those for free, because, this shirt solves the problem of having to go to a sports lab and get blood drawn and do all kinds of extreme things just to get some data about our own body. And this solves that. So after that, though, we don't just want people to go out and go hard because we know our anaerobic threshold. No, we want to do it safely. So there's a couple things to that. The stress test is one check-in with your body, and then a warm-up and a cool-down you're supposed to do that. We need to be doing this before physical activity. So a dynamic warm-up it's going to be one of the free gifts that we give you guys. And the dynamic warm-up is going to get both hemispheres of your brain primed and ready for action by different movements that cross your body. And then it's also going to get your soft tissues oxygenated and get blood flowing, get you primed for movement, get your central nervous system ready so that you can be safer and move more effectively. And it's just funner. When you're warmed up and you're ready for movement, it's, that's like being a kid and having play. And like in PE, you're all awake and aware, and that it's fun to exercise in that state. So a warm-up gets you there, and then once you're warm, you know how hard to go, because another thing we're going to give you when you buy the shirt, when you get into the ambiotex ecosystem here, is that we're going to give you guidance. I'm going to give you 3 different little programs that are different ways to use your anaerobic threshold and your heart rate zones once you have them, in order to get that kind of the way that I got my results, EPOC. And I'll give it to you in a way that you could add it to any other training that you might be doing, and it'll give you some added benefit, or that you could use it alone, and it would be enough to give you increased fitness, help you sleep better. It's going to help you lose body fat, and it's going to show you what to do in your training, so to remove some of that confusion. And then, excuse me, the other part is the cool down. So I got a really cool gym that's local to me here. There's a lady there that's been doing yoga for 20 years, and I went up and I asked her if she would help me build something that I cool teach as a cool down, because I use yoga to cool down, and I have been kind of part of that stretching story for the last couple of years. I've been trying to work out these injuries, and yoga is awesome. There's a lot of body awareness that comes from yoga, and breath training is involved because you're supposed to breathe, and active mobility training because you're flexing your muscles and you're keeping yourself stretched out and open, and it can increase your mobility and your health quite a bit. So to cool down with yoga is something that I really love. And so she's helped build this program, and she'll be the one actually that we recorded. And so she'll be the one that you see. And she's going to run you through each of the warm up and a cool down is like a 8 to 10 minute warm up and cool down. And you can lengthen them out or shorten them up if you need to, but recommend having them about 8 to 10 minutes. And then so you could do a warm up, you could do your training, and you could do a cool down. And then we've given you a complete package that you can go and use to use over time and have a handle on your fitness and finally know what's going on inside your body and start to use that to adjust your lifestyle around it, because you'll be able to start seeing the results. You can see your heart rate change, you can see your stress levels, react to things you didn't know about. Maybe you drank some alcohol and then your stress test was way off the next morning, and you begin to understand the effects on your body of the things that you were doing the day before, and they're not allowing you to recover. It's just really cool once we start getting into this science. Now, that's not all that we are bringing to the table today. So it's really exciting. We're here for the North American launch of ambiotex. Paradigm Transformations Incorporated and vitalperformancegear.com are the exclusive United States and North American ambiotex distributors. So we are really hyped. This is the launch, and we're throwing something else in there for you too. So we're gonna make a special VIP style group on Facebook, and it's gonna be a Facebook group that we put 1,000 people in. The first 1,000 people that come in and buy a starter kit. And remember, we're launching to North America, and there's over 400 million people there, plenty of which are in health and fitness. So 1,000 people is going to fill up pretty quick. But the first 1,000 people that hop in there, and we're going to leave them in the group forever. We intend to grow and scale. There's a lot of cool new technology that we're going to import from ambiotex, and there's also a lot of cool technology that we're developing. And that's for a different video as well, but it interprets what ambiotex is saying. It gives you guidance. So that's coming as software later too. And so this group, this VIP group with 1,000 members, the first 1,000, are going to be where we go to for the special and cool stuff first. So one thing we're going to do is we're going to go there to offer opportunity for brand representation because Paradigm Transformations and vitalperformancegear.com are going to grow, as is ambiotex. And we're going to need to have brand representation that understands the technology, that believes in it, and that knows how to use it and apply it. And so we'll come first to the VIP group, who is the first adopters and who understand it and been with us from the beginning to offer opportunities to grow. And we think that's really exciting, for you guys. But beyond that, we're also going to leave in that same 1,000 member group forever. We'll come first with deep discounts. We'll come first with new products. And we'll have exclusive deals in there too. So it'll be our little special batch, because the first 1,000 people that buy a starter kit are launching everything that we've been working on. We've been underground hitting this hard for a couple of years now, and we are just really hyped to pop through to the service and really make an impact in the health and fitness market, because this is a technology that can really help. So we couldn't be more humbled and excited and grateful for this opportunity. So if you like the video, or if you enjoyed the story, or you're interested and you like the tech, whatever, we would love it if you'd share it, like it, love it, do whatever you want to do, tell your friends about it. We're hyped. We appreciate the support. And of course, click any of the links within the post, or click learn more at the bottom. And you'll be taken to our landing page where you can learn more about me. There's more of my story there. There's videos of the performance test. There's some demonstrations of the stress test and some more explanations. And you can go ahead and satisfy any curiosities that you might have about the technology. And as one final, it's not an offer. It's just the way I want to do it. Anybody who hops on this deal and purchases a starter kit from us, I'm going to jump on the phone with you. I'm going to make sure that we get you the right size. I just want to talk to you and see how get you to measure it the right way. Make sure that we get you what you wanted, and then also that you know how to use it. You understand what I've been talking about. And then when you get it, I'm going to be available as support, as enhanced support, to make sure that you can get it going, get the data, and then you know what I mean with how to use the data. So we're going to be there. We're going to be there to support you, and I'll be there personally to greet you on the phone and to talk you through this process, because it's a new product and we're a new company, but we're real and it's live, and we couldn't be more excited. So like I said, please like it, share it, and we'll see you there.